So, by now you should have watched the act, the show. And I have to tell you about that act that I did in the Estoril Casino. It's not my normal speed. I'm normally much faster than that. But because a lot of the audience were visitors and they were from different countries, I slowed down so they had time to translate. Okay, you've got to think about those things when you walk onto the stage. What is my audience like? What are they like? As well as thinking about all the other things that I'm going to cover. So, we now go back in time. This happened before the show you saw, and happens before every show I do. You never know what the venue is going to be like. You never know whether it's going to be a theatre with proper dressing rooms or a cabaret club with a tiny little cupboard someplace. Or if you're doing private dinners and you're in a hotel, sometimes you just have a screen in the corner of the room you're going to perform in. You've got to be ready for all of those. And that's why my act came down to this, which is a single box, and it's an old flight case. This has been round the world with me several times, and we're just going to open it up now, because the first thing you do upon arrival, you get into your space. This is not the normal luxury to which one is accustomed when you go to do a dressing room situation, but you'll have a table somewhere. So we open this up, and this is not well organized. It never is, because it goes in the car, it goes on a plane, it gets tossed about all over the place. But all the stuff is in here, and it's not just the stuff that you saw in the act, it's the stuff that you don't see in the act. Because every professional magician will tell you that not only does he have his act, he has to have spare tricks in case the conditions aren't quite right for a performance. I've never seen one of those before. Anyway, so what you do is I just spread it all out. Or if I've got to go off and see the management, stuff like that, Debbie, she takes over and she takes it all out and just lays it all out, ready for the international sex symbol, moi, to put it all together. And you'll recognize a lot of this stuff from last night, but you won't recognize some of the padding. We don't need that, actually. But we do need the fruit, the eggs, playing cards. See, there's a spare trick, or a bit of one. So all that happens is they just all get thrown out onto the table until, when everything is out, a box of rubber bands, bits of old rope, playing cards. I know I should be tidy, but ask my wife what I'm like at home, and she'll explain it all to you. Once this is all out of here, like this, and we get it all on the table, spread out, like that, you can see, you're probably one of these people who put stuff away neatly. I never do that until it's actually going into the act box. And then everything has to be in exactly the same place every time, so that without thinking, my hands can just go in and reach out. To many of you, this will come as a surprise. There's more than one ball in the cup and ball. Put them in there. Everything's going down. Lots and lots of things. Bag of nuts, spare tricks. And then the last thing that comes out of this box may surprise you. It may not. But yeah, that's most of the stuff I would be using in the show, or standing around in the show. So the last thing that comes out, that's the tabletop that I used, is this, which is the table itself. Now, when that comes out, that's got Dean's box in the compartment in the top, like that. That comes out and gets put on a chair someplace, because that's it. There's nothing to set up with that. So that gets set up to one side, and now this has got to be prepared and set up, and the suit has got to be set up and prepared for the show. Everything will go into there for the show, except for the spare tricks. So they will go either in the wings, or if there is no wings in the theatre or the space I'm in, they will have to fit in the back of there, so that they're handy for me if it goes wrong. So that's it. The only thing I didn't mention is I'm always early, and I think that's a really good idea, because the night you set off late is the night that you'll get a burst tire. You should always be early for two reasons. It makes the guy who booked you feel more comfortable he's relaxed. Oh, I've got no worries. The act is here. And the second thing is, it makes you feel a lot better. You'll see the venue, you'll see the conditions, you're up, you're ready to go, and you'll feel a lot more comfortable. Next, how do you put the act together? One of the effects I do that I get asked so much about is this thing. It's the chop cup, as it's called. And in fact, that's how I always know when there's a magician in the audience. If I pick on a guy and say, what's that called? The idiot will shout out, it's a chop cup. And the rest of the audience sit there and go, what? What's a chop cup? And generally, the magicians don't know why it's called that anyway. So I always just call it the cup and the ball. Cup and ball, that's it. And would be, how old was I? 21, 22 maybe? And I went to a magic convention in Leeds. And I was lucky enough in my lifetime to have seen the greatest magic dealer demonstrator of certainly my lifetime, and I believe of all time. His name was Ken Brook. And he worked for a guy called Harry Stanley with Unique Magic Studios. And one of the things Ken did was this. But of course then, as now indeed, he did it as a close-up trick. He's got his dealer stand, there's literally dozens upon dozens, hundreds maybe, of magicians trying to get to see what he's doing. And he did this thing with this cup and ball. And I bought it. Then I took it home and I did what I've done all my life. I was fortunate enough as a very young person to work out that the trick you buy from the dealer is not necessarily the best way to do it. Now this trick came then, and I believe it still does, from, I think it's Joe Stevens maybe. It comes in a cloth bag with a little pull string on the top, you know, velveteen, and there's a glass in there and all that jazz. Well, if I'd walked into the clubs in those days with a little velvet bag swinging on my wrist, I wouldn't have lasted 2 minutes. I really wouldn't. Those were clubs that were tough in those days. And so I got rid of the glass, I got rid of the velvet, and I went back to doing what I do. I cut it down to its essentials. What is it? It is a cup and a ball. And then I started to realize something. I had a look at it. You should go into a theater and ask them to put the lights on and all and spotlight it. And if this one I haven't actually done, this is a new one. I rub these, anything chrome and all that, I rub it with emery paper. That's a sort of a rough sandpaper, and I break down the surface. Otherwise, when you hold this up in a theater against a black background, these white lines form, and from the back of the theater, that's all they can see. They can't see it because this reflects the black. Whereas if it has a satin finish, you actually can get to see the shape. But in a play that I went to see, I wasn't in it yet, darling. When I was in the theater at the back, the woman in the play said, "Oh, look, you've lost the button off your coat." And I realized at that moment, I could see the space. She had done something that completely blew me away. She said, that button had gone, and I could see it had gone. And I realized that my brain had filled in the gap. My brain had seen the small thing. And so that's why if I walk on stage, I say to them, "Now, what's that?" And somebody in the audience says, "It's a cup, it's a beaker." The people in the far distance can see it. So I went out around the clubs doing it. It worked very well in bigger and bigger venues. But I did it for about, I don't know, 18, 20 months. And I'm talking every night of the week, because the first 4 years that I came into show business, I only had 18 nights off. I was fully employed, all one-night stands. Awful. But I remember coming home after 18, 20 months and bursting through the front door and saying, "Tonight it went well." And that was the night when I felt totally comfortable in around the trick. I could stop worrying about where it was going next, worrying about what was going to happen. I could stop thinking and get on with entertaining. And that's how it is. I'll get into teaching you the handlings and how I do it later on. You'd be crazy if you copied it. Okay, this is a signature tune, really. Musicians have signature tunes, singers have signature tunes, magicians sometimes have them, you know. I've got this. And every little bit of this has been carefully thought out. The reason I use a piece of cardboard is because people really do think it's a trick table sometimes. And so if I just show them a bit of tacky old cardboard and make a humorous comment about it, you don't have to have a belly laugh, just a very passing comment about it joke-wise, but they do accept the fact now that what they see after that moment did not come up and through the table. That's important. Before I come on, my table has to be rock solid, because wobbly tables make audiences feel insecure for you. And so, solid table, and that applies to all your props everywhere, you know, even to illusions. If they're wobbling, you're, oh, what's going wrong? This is the major trick that I do on the big, the money trick I take out of it. But the major trick I do on this box is this one. And I take that out of there. Now, what have I got? I've got this in there with a ball inside it. The trick ball is inside it. In this pocket, I have 2 balls, okay? And I have got the last load, which in this case is 11, all right? And that goes in there, the 2 balls sit on top of it, and then this goes in here. You may choose, instead of doing this, to wear an apron. It's entirely up to you, but this is my loading area. If I was wearing an apron, I would still have the same split, you know, out this way. So I know I've got a ball in there. So then I can talk to the man in the audience, and note in the handling of this, it looks accidental, but I'm watching the angle to the audience all round, and nobody gets a flash of the ball inside. Nobody. What happens there is the angle of this is always flipping and turning away from the audience. So even that has to be thought out and put into place. Now, for those who are in the know, for those who are not in the know, you buy a chop cup. They come in different fatnesses, thicknesses, shapes. This is the original shape Ken Brook came up with, and I've used ever since. It's a spun aluminium. Therefore, if you say aluminium out loud, they think non-magnetic. But of course, it is magnetic. If you were to get a magnifying glass, become Sherlock Holmes, you would see this lip is actually laid over the top of the cup. And inside that double skin up there is a round magnet. The ball also that is inside here has got a rope magnet inside it, okay? Now the balls that I use, I think I can just show you that. If I angle it like that, you might just get a little glint of it, and you'll see that it is a piece of metal. That's a rope magnet. The balls that you will get from the dealers are much smaller than this, all right? And they tend to be red, mostly, dark-colored red. Great for close-up, but useless for what I do with this thing, because the dark red cannot be seen. Now there's a bit of a giveaway, watch. Trick ball. So you never do that. In my routine, having seen that happen once or twice, I never put this ball on top of the cup, never. You'll gather that as the routine goes on. So the ball, listen, is inside the cup. It sounds a little metallic, it's not. It's covered in crochet. You go to a hardware shop, you buy polystyrene balls of any size you want, and then you go on Facebook and Twitter and you say, does anybody do crochet work? And trust me, if you don't believe me, that's where these got done. A girl came on Twitter and said, I do it, and I sent her a set of balls, she sent me them back, crochet covered. That's it. So now I've got the ball in there, 2 balls here, 2 balls there. So I said to the fellow, what's that? Now the reason for the cardboard top is, yes, it stops them thinking trapdoor, but it also has a bit of bounce in it, you know? It has a bit of bounce in it, just enough give. This is double skinned. I've used a single one, double skinned it and all that, but it gives me that little bit of bounce, a little bit of edge. So when I put that down there, my next question is, I go in here, I take out a ball, I put it on there and say where it is. I do the joke about upside down and all that, and then I say to him that he's maybe my speed is baffling him, so I won't cheat. I'll give him another chance. I put my hands in my pocket. Where's the ball? Okay. Now I'm going to pause there because you've got, you know, you've got that in your head now. There's one inside, there's one on top, fruit, ball. But when I walk away, I'm frequently not wearing one of these microphones. In live situations, I don't come across them so much. I use one of these. And that microphone, okay, like this, is pointing at my mouth. I'm well aware of it. A lot of people in the disco business will be talking like this, and you can't hear, you can't make it out clearly. It's very important for a magician to be heard clearly. So what you must do is you don't talk straight down the microphone, you talk across the microphone, and it adds to your voice. It does not replace your voice. You talk to the person in the back seat. That's all you do. You don't shout. You see a lot of that on children's television now. Hey, we're going to do that. There's no need to shout. You talk to the back row. That's it. And when you are working this, and the microphone for me is always there. For you, it might be here, it might be down there. But you work around the microphone and your head is always focusing around the microphone. So when I step back and say, my hands are in my pocket, I'm still in line with that microphone. So the guy says, you know, whatever he says, and I say, correct, but be very careful, I don't sneak it into my left hand. And now watch this, because I'll come back to this, I'm sure, on another subject. I'm always banging on about 1, 2. This hand comes out first, and this one follows it. And so this is, watch this, it's always 1, 2. Why? Well, because I'm cheating. I've taken this out. But the whole of my body language is perfectly natural. I've gone in here like that. Where's the ball? It's on the top of the bottom of the cup. Very good. But be careful that I don't sneak it into my left hand. If I sneak that into my left hand and I tip it, that's from, I think, probably from a Vernon cups and balls routine way back, you know. But I have come out of here, and now I'm only going to use the 2 balls in rotation. I'm going to use 2 balls in rotation. I've cupped that, my hand's in my pocket, I come up, I tip that into there like that, it's under there. Then it goes there, and it could be here, and it could be here, it could be there. Then I'm doing this at high speed, as you will have seen on the show, and the thing then is, I go into the slow motion aspect of it. But because in the high speed section, I do the rotation of these balls a few times, and suddenly, having gone up here and all that, to take that out of there, this comes down, and I'm positive about it. Now, the cup and the ball are traveling at that angle. Too many people do this, and you're in danger that the ball will bounce back straight up again. What you have to do is you have to take an angle of 45 degrees, and then the ball will be dropped down there. The ball, having gone down like that, can't find the way back up again. I mean, it's obvious. But there's a subtlety happen in the trick. And it's ignored by a lot of magicians. And I know this from the criticisms I've had from magicians who poo-poo the chop cup as being mechanical. I've been doing sleight of hand all the way through this routine. Where's the other one? There. From the moment I start to go like this, I'm doing toss vanishes into there, like that, taking it like that, taking it like that. This is good magic stuff. You can do it like that if you want to. It's up to you. This goes down there, and then I put it in my pocket, take it in my pocket. It can't be under there. Do that, put it there, can't be in the pocket. I'm very slappy. It can't be up there. And then I come down here. And now I've introduced the mechanical bit of the trick, because it can't be there, can it? No. Right, we'll start the trick. Here's a trick with the cup and the ball. And you completely thrown the audience away now. It's a damn good general principle for all magic, that if you always use sleight of hand, they'll be looking for it. But if you mix up sleight of hand with mechanical principles, they don't know what the hell to look for. And so it's pretty good. And then I say, are you following this? And look, this isn't accidental. I say, are you following this? Look, I'm not doing what some magicians do. Oh, look, I have an empty cup. No, you only sound stupid. You just point it and just let it flop, and they know. They know it's empty because I'm so casual with it. I don't care. Now, how do you get to this state, before we go to the next bit, how do you get to this stage? I'll tell you what you do. You sit at home, you watch television, and you play with the ball, and you roll it between your fingers. Read books on billiard ball manipulations. There might be a move there you might want to fit in. Learn the toss vanish properly, which I'll probably teach in another part if you don't really know it. The toss vanish is my most useful vanish. That hurt. And mix it all together. So now, we've got to the stage where I'm going to place a bet with the ball. I've got to now get 2 pieces of fruit underneath here. You can distract whole theatres. You can distract somebody sitting on a table, 2 or 3 people. You cannot distract one of those things, a camera, because if you're distracting that one-eyed monster, there'll be another one-eyed monster up there, and you cannot distract them. So what do? If you're going to do it on television, okay, the rest of the time it doesn't really matter. The misdirection is so great, all right? You say to him, you're back to the one mechanical ball cup, and you say, look, I'm going to drop the ball in the cup. I'm going to sweep it out with an action. I'm going to put it into my pocket like this, okay? It's into my pocket like that. I'm going to flick my ball very hard. The audience laugh because it's a little bit naughty. And, you know, dear, he said a rude word. I'm going to flick my ball very hard. And it's going to go up my sleeve. Now, watch how I've started to exaggerate now. It's going up my sleeve, across my shoulders. I've turned away from the main camera here. And what I'm doing here is out of sight. And in fact, I'm pulling an orange out of my pocket that is bigger than the gap in my trousers, so it's quite difficult. I need to cover that. So to do it, I exaggerate. I say it goes up my sleeve, across my shoulders, down the side. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, now I've had a test run. I know the feel of how hard to pull to get it out. I've just had a little test run. So what I do is, I then say, right, it goes and down there. And that is why you've got to put the cup down quickly to catch the ball that goes up your sleeve, across your shoulders, down this side, pull, down this side and under the cup. Now, do not go under the cup all at once. Don't do that. Don't go under the cup in, because they haven't had time to have their attention grabbed by the little white ball. But this is whether you're doing it close up or big theatre telly. You just go across the shoulder, down the sleeve, and under the cup. 1, 2. And this cup, in television terms, I would have the camera there. Today it is there. You come up and you line that with the lens. He's looking at that. The people at home are looking at that. And it tends to cover the fact you're taking this slightly backwards to take it in this hand as this hand comes to take the ball. So you are covered 99 times out of 100, you are covered. It's coming up, round the back to be coming forward as you're coming in to take the ball. And this has become unimportant. It's not, wow, this is unimportant. Then I say, never put the ball into the wrong pocket, or you will have a confused ball. Oh, this is so naughty. But, you know, you're doing this, which is a slightly sexual move, and the ladies are going, hoo-hoo. And so you're saying, you have conflict. When you flick, and again, in public now, I'm testing the pull needed to get, because all of these damn things are different sizes. So you pull, you pull, you pull. I'm testing the pull. You say, oh, it gets confused. It can't find the way. So, but the audiences applaud. I'm amazed. But the audiences applaud. Why do they applaud? Well, because when you flick, look where I am. I've spun right round again. There's my problem, the camera. And I spun it all around like that. And I go, because, why? Because when you flick, you get an orange. And that's so big, they never see the lemon coming. And that's when I leave it. And I'll walk away from it, you know. I pick the microphone off, ready to start the next routine, and I say, oh, you like that? That doesn't surprise me. It's the lemon that surprises me, and that's the killer. Okay, let's do a very quick right through the whole thing, and then I'll show you it as I'm going along, exactly what I'm up to, and you should be able to follow it. I do jokes about this, I take this out, I put it there, I explain everything about it, what it's going to do, and what I've got in there is I've got a ball already up the top, held magnetically. I have also got two in here, and one here and one here. It depends. I've got the lemon in this one as well. And it depends where you're working, of course, and how fast you work. Don't work at my speed. Work at your speed. You might get heckled. You're doing your famous cup and ball routine, and someone will shout, you've got two balls, you know. You bounce it back. You say, well, how many have you got, Superman? And you'll take the edge away from it. You know, don't let the heckler win, okay? So you put that there. First move, I go in, I take out one ball. My hands are deliberately shown to be empty as I put that down. I'm doing this a lot, okay? There's the ball, there's the cup and the ball. And I pick it up to emphasize there's nothing here, I put it down. You'll see all of this on the screen if you watch over and over the routine. This is still in here. I ask him a question, he gets it wrong, I emphasize he's got it wrong, I put it back, give him another chance, I put my hands in my pocket, I act fairly stupid, and then I take this hand out, this comes out as one, this comes out as two, it's here, and it's going in there, like that, on the tip-off into the hand. I do a toss vanish to get it under there, I do another toss vanish to get it under there, like that. I take this one out like this, I put it into my pocket, I throw it up there, it couldn't come down here, and then I put that down there, this goes there. I'm deliberately making that big noise so you can hear it's a bang, you need to do the bang. It goes back into there, I flick it up there, it's back down here. I take this, I flip that to show it empty, put that in there, put that there, that there. It can't be that kind of, we'll start the trick. Here's a trick with the cup. Are you following this? He isn't. So my routine, I go into a slow motion, stupid bit of business, okay, and then take it out, put it in my pocket, and where's the ball? But that's, you may not want to do the joke, you don't have to do the joke. Why should you do the joke? It's not yours. And so then he says, the ball is under the cup. You'll say, no, it's in my pocket, okay? All right? You should have said, it's in my pocket. Then I'd have said, no, it's under the cup. That's one version. On the other hand, let's go back a bit. He might say, now, where's the ball? It's in your pocket. And I say, in other words, it can't be under the cup, right? He says, right. I said, wrong. And so you've covered yourself two ways. Wherever there's two answers possible, think it through and give yourself the cop-out, all right? Then you go to teach him the trick, you show him that, you put it there, you tell him you sweep it out, you're not taking anything. You put it into your pocket, you flick the ball, okay? It rolls up. Now the orange is already creeping up with my hands here. It's creeping up. I'm turning away like that, and it's going to go under there, across my shoulders and down there and under the cup. Do you understand that? Yes, I do. Good. And then I say, flick, roll. It's got to go down. That's why you've got to put the cup down very quickly. To catch the ball, goes up your sleeve. It's already out, okay? It's way out. It's out here. And I say, up the sleeve, across the shoulders, down the side, and under the cup. Woof, my nose is here. If it was anywhere else, they would look somewhere else. But my nose is here. This is traveling slow motion back as this is popping out, trying to line up with that. I normally have them here. Trying to line up with that. And it goes there like that as this gets picked away. And you put that down there. You're focused on this. This is immaterial. This goes down here like that. And now you're going to do the exact move again, but you're traveling this direction for the camera. For an audience, no. For an audience, you would just go flick, fluck, flack, take it to the back and load it straight down so you're covering most of the audience, okay? It's coming in there. But give them time to see that before 1, 2, okay? And then that goes there, and that is apparently the end of the trick. And at the end of the trick, you say, did that surprise you? That's the one that amazes me. Dana, that's it. I don't know about you, but I love it when I don't know how a trick is done. And despite reading hundreds and hundreds of books and nowadays looking at DVDs and YouTube, but I get surprised by a trick and then my head goes back, 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 back. Oh yes, it was that method. It was one of those. It was, you know, the way it works out. But the first time I saw the trick that was called then the Professor's Nightmare, and a bit later people called it equal, unequal ropes, I really didn't know how it worked. I hadn't a clue. And I made myself not work it out. I know that sounds funny, but for about 3, 4, 5 years, I made myself not think about it, just enjoy it as a piece of magic. And so I got to the stage where I'm putting my act together, and I needed to get 2 men onto the stage. So I needed something that would give me 2 things that I could throw out and get back, and my head linked up with unequal ropes. And so this thing that you saw me do started to develop. But I'll go through every little detail of even this with you. And the only reason it went in the show was that I wanted to get 2 guys up out of the audience. But then, how do I make it into an entertainment piece? Well, that's a different beast altogether. And so I came up with this crazy story about the 3 bears. There's a zillion stories out there about the unequal ropes, and you should look through them all, read them all, and maybe your head will then start to invent one for yourself about inequality. I mean, good grief, there's a plethora of things you can talk about. Mine is the 3 bears. And so that's how it came about, just as an excuse for getting fellas up. Okay, let's talk about the Professor's Nightmare, the equal unequal ropes. If you've only just joined magic, you won't know. But there must be more bits and bobs written about this trick than just about anything else I've ever come across in magic. As I said earlier, I really didn't know how it was done, okay? And I really did sit down and work this out for myself when I had to do it. The way I put it together is I first make the little one. The little, for those who maybe are watching from Mars, there's a long rope, a middle-sized rope, and a short rope. That's it. But all I use is a short one as the stub basis. Once I get the short one right, then I'm quite happy. That's about right. Why? Well, because it shows off both ends of my hand, okay? So you can see the top bit, the bottom bit at the same time. That's it. That's all it is. But I fold it in half. I put the other end through there and I pull like that until I get to about where I think it will look good. I've seen lots of versions of this where there's not much difference between the short one and the middle one. And I don't think that's right. What I'm making now by folding it over like that and getting it to about there is I am going to do this, like this, cut that off there, and now I have created the long piece of rope, which I'll show you in a second. Now, what we do is we put that to the top of there, roll it down to there, till it meets these two ends here. And now we have three pieces of rope that from the front will look the same. But, look, if we unplug that one like that, you now have three pieces of rope that are distinctly different. You'll probably need to notice that I take them out of my box to do this trick, and I take out first the mummy bear, all right? She's the one that comes out first, and she goes right up into the crotch of the thumb like that. And the next one out is the daddy bear. So there was a mummy bear, the daddy bear was bigger than the mummy bear, and a little tiny baby bear. Now, this, I've never told anybody, this is really easy. When I'm telling my story, I'm constantly taking these apart, the daddy bear, the baby bear, and the mummy bear. And yes, I keep the mummy bear in there, but I put the baby bear in the story, and I say, and they were all in bed together. And as I put them together like that, I bring the daddy bear up, straight up like that. And as you can see, it just naturally crosses this, the little one. So that when I go to fold that over there to put it, they're all curled up in bed together, they're already in the crossover position. I have nothing else to do. It's by far the simplest method. You put that in that order, the mummy bear, the baby bear, and then you just bring that across there and get hold of it. No work to do, no work at all. Okay? Having got them to that situation, the story continues. You don't need me to tell you that. And you just do that. Some people go boop, 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 boop. Quite right. You can do that if you like. You get them like that. And then I drop this end. I'll come back to that in a bit. But I drop this end and I go like that and I grab the mummy bear. Okay? And I pull it away. And because normally I work with a microphone, as I do this next thing, I do that one first, I go behind the microphone stand on the way to just doing that. And that takes away the second one. I'll do that slowly, then you'll be able to see it again, okay? I'll do it from this side, and you'll be able to see it. That goes in there. There's the mummy bear. This comes up behind the microphone. They grab that as that grabs that, and it's just pulled straight down like that. So I've got to that stage now. It goes, there's the mummy bear, there's the daddy bear, and that's it. And then I take a bow, because that is too fast for them to see what's going on. It's dingly dangly down there, look. And so it's down there. So I've just got it to that stage, and I do that. Another nice thing that sometimes I do, because I do like to play with these things, is I go, so the heads are on the pillow and the feet are on the bottle, and my holding hand, that comes and takes all three, slides down. This is completely concealed behind there. That goes down there, like that. Then you'll find that if you just bring them up and put them there, you know this is the baby bear. So you can just pull it straight out with confidence, and then you can go straight into the mommy bear and the daddy bear. If you're going to do a trick, any trick, you should know it over and over and over again till it's perfect, so you don't have to think. Now, here's a story about this trick, and you should bear this in mind, because I went to do a show in Downing Street, which is where our Prime Minister lives. And every year at Christmas, they have a show for children who have a disability. And one little girl wasn't paying real attention. She was just, you know, like this beautiful little blonde girl. And I asked what was wrong with her, and she was blind. So she couldn't see the clowns. She didn't understand the visuals. And blind people cannot understand visual magic. Blind from birth, it means nothing. It's no good saying the red has become yellow. What's red, okay? So I got this little girl, and I put her onto the stage next to me, and I told the audience of boys and girls that this little girl was blind. And they just accepted that. They're disabled. It's kind of so what, okay? You should never talk over the heads of people who are disabled. So I said, now, you're going to do a magic trick. And she was a bit iffy. I said, look, just reach out with your hand. I took her hand, and I said, now, I put her there. I said, just pull and hold it in your left hand and feel how long it is. So she's doing this. I said, this is a mammy bear, okay? It was a mammy bear. The kids were just, they knew something. So, now, take hold of this one, and she got hold of that. I feel how long that is, you see? That is the daddy bear. And she, oh, and there's this awareness in her face. You might want to do this if ever you meet a blind person. It's worth doing. She then, I put her hand up, and she felt this, and I said, feel how long that is, and of course her hand fell off the end. I said, yeah, that's little. That's the baby bear. Now let me help you hold them, okay? It's easy. She's got them in her left hand. Now I said, now, I tell the story, they all curled up in bed, just hold that there, and I'm pushing them into a place. The one person in the room who could see what was happening was blind. She's behind it. She can't see it. So I said, now, count 1, 2, 3, which she did, and keep hold of the others, and just pull, and the baby bear will get longer and longer and longer and longer. Oh! And her face, wow! That was wow! And then I said, let's have a big round of applause for her, and got a big round of applause for her, like that. And I said, and feel how long they are, you know, kept over this. And she goes all the way down and said, are they all the same size? And she said, yes. I said, right. Now we just pick them up and we put them there. Now pull this one, and she pulled it, and of course it's back to being a baby bear. I'm, wow! Now pull the next one, it's a mommy bear, and they've got a great big long daddy bear. Big round of applause for her. She goes back to her seat. Everybody's had a great time. And I said, right, it's party time now. You're going to go through that door there. If you can't walk, don't worry, someone will collect you, and you're going to get your food, okay? And while I'm hushing all the kids through, I get this. And I look down, and it's her. And she's found my voice through the crowd. And I said, yes, love, what's the matter? She says, that's the first magic trick I've ever seen. Oh, learn the trick. One last thing, somebody in the studio has just asked me, how do you throw the knot into the rope? What I did last night on stage, you do that and you get a knot. And if you don't know how that's done, I'll tell you. It's very simple, simple-ish. All you do is you jerk that up in the air. Can you see that loop falls in the air there? That a loop comes up there. And as that loop is coming up there, this finger hits the rope about there. There is no fixed place. You'll have to learn your own place for this. It's there, it depends on how hard. And what happens is that flicks that up and through there, through the crossed over rope. You get the idea? So it comes up like that, hop, ha. God, I'm good. Okay, so I've got the two guys on stage, and they've entered a world of wonder, haven't they? This is not their normal office or workplace, so they might be feeling a bit strange. I'm heading towards doing the electric chairs and the money trick, but I want to settle them down. So I was looking for a trick that would involve us all, me, him, me. And I saw Patrick Page, a Scotsman who worked for Davenport's at the time, I think. And he was doing a carding wallet, and I bought it off him. And it's a stock wallet. It looks like the full-size normal wallet. You can open it up. It's got a zip in here, that's all. And you can just show the wallet. And you put that in your pocket. And really now, you're ready to go. I'll be going over the details, of course I will. But where did it come from? Pat Page, Davenport, and the years go by, and of course I developed patter for it and all that. Whatever their card might be, by the way, ten of spades, hello, ten of spades, I know you're down there. And so while I'm talking to the guys, yes, I'm chatting away to both of them, and I'm shuffling the cards and all that jazz. But trust me, there's nothing clever in it. And then I give him the cards as my hand goes into here, and there's no chutes or anything in the suit, but the card is inside here, like that, and yet, you know, you can show it just the same as you did before, and it's the ten of spades. Oh, it's so clever. There's somebody cheating. And so I'll go over the details of the why and when, but basically, I've done it for such a long time, and in these latter years, every time I met Pat, he would say, "You're doing it wrong. Hey, you're doing it wrong, you know." Well, maybe I was, but it's gone awfully well, Patrick. Wherever you may be, thank you. Right, the mechanics of the carding wallet. There are hundreds of wallets. There really are. And I know that because they're all in a drawer in my home. I guess like most magicians, we go to a convention, we buy yet another wallet, you know. There's Himba wallets and flip wallets and all that. But the one I bought from Patrick Page and might still be sold by Davenport's. And all you have to do is have somebody pick a card. I always do the classic force. And I like to introduce the joke of, and it is a joke, of putting them behind my back, and I do a classic force behind my back. As a professional magician, you have to work to a time scale that the boss, the booker, wants. So all these bits of business that you learn, you can put them in, you can take them out, you can make your act go like this, you can go make act go like that, you know. The great Doug Henning used to do a barrel thing called Through the Eye of a Needle, and it was his favorite illusion because he could do it in about 3 minutes or he could do it in 25 minutes, and that's the kind of thing, all the bits of business. So this, I have a card chosen, and in my instance, I have a card chosen on this side, okay, but signed on this side. Why? Because it keeps both of these men involved in the scene. And in my act, you have to remember that the reason I'm doing this trick is because it's settling them down. And it's also showing them I know what I'm doing, and they can be comfortable with me. So he takes a card, whatever it might be, the Three of Hearts. He takes the card. I said, don't show me it. And if I see it, you know, what's the big deal? Too many magicians go, oh, I've seen that one, we must change it. Why? Just say, you turn it face down because, you know, if I see it's the three of hearts, it's too easy. But I still give him it. And I say, now give it to him, he signs it. Now it's coming back at me. The three of hearts is coming back at me. All I do is, that card is coming from his hand there. I'll put it there just for now. And I say, right, put it, look how sloppy this is. Put it on there, or on there, or on there, or on there, or on there. Now you might read some magic books, and they will tell you to get a little pinch of flesh in underneath the card or on top of the card. And I always laugh, because pros don't do that. Professionals don't do that. You stick your whole damn finger in. And it's the same thing with in-jog, a 16th, 18th of an inch, a millimetre. Nah, you don't. When the card goes on there, remembering that this has been so sloppy, I say, right, put it on there. Good. Look how far back that's gone. It's come right back like that. And I'm doing this all over. And it looks a mess. To him, who's up close, to them, they can see the bigger action. To him, it's just a mess, okay? Now, I'm coming at this. I can't miss it, because that's the in-jog. That's the in-jog. I can't miss that. My thumb comes up while I'm talking, and I say to him, okay, do you gamble? My whole finger is in the back. I'm not looking at this. This is finished, all right? I'm more interested in him. I turn and I cut the card. In fact, I do a pass, but you don't have to. It's not how clever a pass you do, it's when do you do the damn thing. And so all I do is on the turn, I do the pass, and now the 3 has risen to the top. It's no big deal. Get it there any way you like. And then again, because I'm talking to these two men, I'm fascinated by these two men, I do a shuffle like this, okay? And as I'm just doing that shuffle, it's gone to the bottom, because all I did was drag my thumb off the top like that and pull it to the bottom and put the rest on. Now, I'm ahead of the game. I'm covering the card because I don't want him to see it's the one he signed. It's on the bottom. So I then say, do you gamble? Do you gamble? And now watch this. My hand comes here. A lot of people say, oh, I can't palm from the bottom. Well, neither can I. All I do is I let my hand hit the bottom of the pack like that, right across my hand, and turn. I'm not palming, I'm just pushing it in there, but I'm not looking like this. I'm talking to him, really, really? And do you gamble? Well, here, watch. My hand comes away, I've given him the card, and all my nose is here, and this traveling the card is going up and into my thing at the same time, and I turn and say, and do you gamble? Or have you got any money? And by now it's in the wallet, because, you know, take it out, and the wallet itself. So, but this wallet is, you are looking for a wallet that's got a zip in the middle, full length zip like that, so that you can easily reach in. Oh, by the way, you can turn it and show it, and you can easily reach in and take out the card like that. And it will be their signed card. Now, why is it that simple? Well, because all you do is you get a wallet, you stick a piece of metal or cardboard in there, and you cut a hole in there. Look how ugly that is, but you never get to see it. Why? Because that hole is exactly the size of my finger. So, and that's where you handle the wallet. And I promise you, if you cut a wallet like that, or buy one from Davies, and you just put that there, as this hand is going in with a card, I like mine to come out face down. You can do it face up, it's up to you. As it goes in there like that, as you go over the top, there's no way to show you this, it just goes straight into the slot. There's no need for a chute. There's no need for a flap. There's no need for anything else. You've just got a nice, clean looking wallet, and that's it. Beautiful investment. first time I saw the baby gag, it came from, again, Ken Brooke, the master. And Ken had a very north of England accent from Bradford. He talked a bit like that. And at the time, in England, certainly, broadcasters and the big posh dinners all spoke Oxford English, and they were very properly spoken. So Ken appeared to be a bit down market when he were talking about doing linking rings, you know, and stuff like that. So he never really took off on the British cabaret scene, but put him in a hall of magicians and he was a riot. And so I bought everything he had. I bought the lot, you know, and everything I bought off Ken worked. So the baby gag just started out initially as a drawing of a baby 3 months old. That was it, okay? A bit later on was added the dark-skinned baby on the back, so you got a double whammy joke. And if you take the full routine to where it is now, the one I've got, you can open it up and it's yellow and it's red and you say, oh, I don't care what color the baby is, you know. You get that. I don't use that so much, every now and then, just as I feel like it. Then, at the same time, there was another thing came into vogue, which was the thought transmitter, which is just an egg whisk, egg beater transmitter. And they were using that for things like the rising cards. You would get somebody, in fact, if you look on YouTube, I think you'll see me doing it with Shirley Bassey. And I'm doing the rising card, and I made Shirley Bassey do it. And if ever I feel depressed, I was very young then, I watched that tape because, man, I was good. And so then I had another friend who used to vanish the Okito floating ball by just chucking it off stage. So I put that gag in. And when I was at the Prince of Wales Theatre, which is the West End of London, for a long time, I got more letters about the vanishing egg beater than any of the other illusions and wonderments I was doing in the show, which is quite upsetting, really. Or is it? I don't know. But it always goes well. Let's talk about the baby gag. Now, it's a very old gag, and it started off a long time ago with just a white picture of a white baby, and then people added on, and there's lots of different versions of it now. But if it's just a throwaway joke, any throwaway joke, you should give it the fullest attention you can. What more can you get out of it, all right? You have to be an actor. You have to sell this thing, which is a nothing, but give it attention. When I walk into a venue, I look around to see what it is like. And if there is what they call in the theatre a flat, okay, a piece of scenery, or in a hotel you can use a screen sometimes, then I can do the add-on jokes. If they're not there, I don't force the jokes. Never force a joke onto anybody. Now here in the studios, we don't have this sort of thing. What we do have is a man holding it behind here, and this is with my wife. This is a shock. But this, why is Debbie there? Because wherever I'm working, Debbie is there. He's not there. But now, excuse me, walking forward and doing all the physical labor myself, you know, you can't get the staff. This is the flat that is here, like that. And notice now this goes up, how much better the picture is, because Lewis is behind there. Right, now, so what is the routine? Well, the routine is the man over here, he thinks of somebody very famous. It's very important in this that I say to him, the person you name must be internationally known. I'm sorry, I interrupt myself here because I forgot. I tell him we're going to transmit with this, and he stands over there. Now again, I have thought this through. When he's doing this, which makes him possibly feel a bit stupid. I don't want him to feel stupid. I want him to be in the party. So when he's doing this, I take it away from me making him do this, and I refer to his family, his friend, his wife out there, and I say, this is just for you. You know, for the rest of your life, if you're having an argument, you can say, yes, but I wasn't silly, stupid, daft enough to stand there doing this. And now the pressure is off. He realizes it's just a joke, and the pressure is away. He's not embarrassed anymore. He's a part of the party. But I take this from him. I say, who did you think of? And he names somebody famous. He says, Tom Cruise. I say, you are not going to believe this. And I walk to the flat. It might be a curtain. And I turn like this, and I say, you could have picked anybody. Look where this is, okay? You could have picked anybody. All right, white or black, this, that, and that, okay? And I'm talking to him, all right? And when I'm talking to him, I suddenly notice I've got this. And from there, I look up there, okay? So I'm talking to him, and I go, yeah, oh. And I throw it up in the air. Just stupid joke, all right? And that is why Debbie is here, because Debbie catches this, eh? A wife can be useful. So now, you put all that makeup on for that moment. Now, the thing is, I say, in an envelope, I placed one picture and one picture only. The odds against me getting, and I go for the envelope, you see? I believe it's there. If you don't believe, you're not acting very well. And I go, an envelope. Now, most times, there's nobody here. But I talk to just above my own eye level, or just below. I create a person who is not level with me. I see him, and I say, an envelope. And in that envelope, and there's, you know, the audience starts to think, hang on, he hasn't got it. There's something going wrong. In the envelope, I placed one picture, and one picture only. You could have picked anybody at all. And you see what's happening here? My body language is real. It's gone. And that's how you have to feel if you're acting. Acting is really reacting. I'm reacting to the fact there is no envelope there. And, so it's gone. And then I pretend they haven't heard. So I go, yes, what? Tom Cruise. But I don't just go, Tom Cruise. My head does this first, as if they have said to me something. It's acting. You write the full script, and then you play with it. And so that's it. And then you just say, what? Tom Cruise. Ugh. And I realize the microphone is here, and I push it away. And I go, what? Oh, I have just been told, and now my body language changes. I strut a little towards the table. I've just been told by the staff that the prediction is in here. I take it out. Okay, this is not in a paper envelope, because in traveling the card would get destroyed. It's in a strong card envelope. And then you get Tom Cruise. And now I realize that I could go back to this saying I use, yes, Paul, and get it out of him. And I deliberately intonate. I say, now, you could have picked anybody at all. Say, yes, Paul. So he does. But then I go, male or female, in such a way that it's like a question, just a hint. Male or female? And he will go, male. And that allows me to hit him and say, yes, Paul, you've only got one line in the play. So nothing I do is accidental, nothing. And when you're performing, nothing you should do should be left to chance. You should cover every moment in your performance. And the rest, you know, as you saw up there, you know what to do. Incidentally, when you're putting the prop back, always put the prop back the right way round, and always check it before you go on that it's the right way around, so that you never have to even think when you go to take it out of the envelope. You don't have to look, you know it's going to be the right one. Okay? So That's how I do this tiny little joke, which, as Jay Marshall and Carol Fox said, can take 12 minutes. And if you're getting paid by the hour, that's pretty good. By now, I've almost got my act complete, all right, almost. I was doing general magic tricks in there and trying to find the route to the complete act, which I will be talking about, why I arrive at it psychologically, the look of it and all that jazz. But I went to see a fabulous mentalist, the best mentalist I have ever seen, still. And that's including all the guys who were doing it today. And his name was Maurice Fogel. Fogel was a short, squat, Jewish gentleman, but he had the power when he came on stage, incredible power when he was on stage. And if he was sitting at a dining table with you, he would do a trick, a mind-reading trick, a mentalist trick, that you would know, but you would believe. You really believed the guy could read your mind. He was an extraordinarily powerful man. And he was doing a club in the north, I can remember it, the Fiesta Club in Stockton. And I was touring around the working men's clubs with a very young guy called Billy Highgate, who later on became a cruise director and lives in America now. But he just won an award on television as a junior, playing the guitar and singing. And I was driving him round. His mother organized all the clubs for us, and I carried the gear in and out and all that, because her son was delicate. And mums are like that. And so we had a night out, and we went to see Fogel. I said, you've got to come and see this guy. And it was awful. I mean, it was embarrassing for me, because I so loved Murray. And here he is, doing this thing that is glaringly obvious. He's going along, he's got about half a dozen fellas on stage, and he is literally going along with no vocation, no force of movement. He's just going and talking in their ears, and the fellas jumping off the chair. And he's going to the next one, and jumping off the chair. And I thought, what is this? This is nothing. And that was it. They were just jumping off the chair. But this Northern England audience just thought it was rubbish, because you could see what was going off. And at that moment, this boing went on in my head, and I turned to Billy Highgate. I said, we're working together next Tuesday night, aren't we? And he said, yeah. I said, I'm going to do that. And he says, what? He says, that's rubbish. I said, no, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to, as we say in England, tear the place apart, you know, go a storm, whatever you want to say. I knew instantly exactly what I was going to do, how I was going to do it, and from that day to this, I don't think one word of the routine has changed, except it's slightly in different orders, which I'll explain in another DVD we're doing. But it's, for me, that was my road to Damascus. I just, boom, and I just knew this would be the killer routine of my life. And it has been. I've seen others do it. Well, of course, I mean, they try to copy me, but they don't have what's up here. And they must wonder why sometimes it goes wrong. It does go wrong sometimes for them. Thank you. And they must also wonder why it's always such a riot when I do it. It's a riot because I fully, for some reason, know more about this trick than I think any other trick that I do. I know the how, the why, the when, and very shortly, so will you. Okay, the trick, the effect known as the electric chairs. There have been historically quite a few booklets and books written on it, and I've seen a lot of people doing it. I claim one part of it because I really believe I invented it. I really believe I never saw anybody else do it. But let's go back over what was before. To me, it had problems. One of the problems was I could see Fogel telling them to jump off the chairs. In fact, one fellow in France had a row of people on chairs, and while he was over there, you could see the assistant walking behind telling them what to do. The brainwave that came when I was watching this was, it would be much better if you didn't talk to them. I was a bit worried about it for a long time when I was doing it. Even I was doing it and getting great responses, but I couldn't understand why the audience wasn't getting it like I'd got it when I was watching Fogel, until I did it on TV. And I watched myself on TV and I couldn't see how the trick was done. So that kind of made me aware that this wasn't a bad trick. There's so many aspects of the trick. If you learn to do the electric chairs, or want to do the electric chairs, and you think, oh, I'll just stick it in the act, you will be in trouble from time to time. I have known men going into the toilets and asking other men to jump off the chairs when I started for 10 shillings. I'll give you 10 shillings if you jump off the chairs for me. Well, the problem with that is a lot of guys in the toilets would say, oh no. And they'd go back and tell their table, a weird guy came and said, would I jump off the chairs for 10? And he would tell another table, and yeah, terrible. If you pre-stooge them, I don't know about you, but I watch mentalist shows and things like that, where the people are so obviously acting. They've had time to prepare themselves for the part. And so they act. They don't deliver like a real person would. The electric chairs, for me, starts before the men have even come onto the stage. I just think it's one of those things that it's a man-to-man thing. So kill me if I'm sexist. Right. Now, I'm looking for two men, preferably, not essentially, but preferably between the age of 25 and 35. Before 25, you'll find they're a bit, you know, what we call Jack the Lad, a bit cocky, know what I mean? And might have a go at you, might have a pop, particularly in the clubs, you know? Over 35, well, they've had a proper job, and they can be what we call pompous, you know, develop pomposity. And sometimes it's not them, sometimes it's their wives who want their husbands to be a member of society. So 25 to 35, you've increased the odds in your favor. You might still make a mistake, but you nevertheless. They come on stage, you greet them positively. You hello them positively. There's no wimpiness in your little handshake when they come up. You control them in the first part, long before the chairs. If you watch it in the act, you know, you come and stand over here, and you stand here. Bit later on, you get a chair. Very good, get one for yourself. You are telling them what to do. Pick a card. They are taking the card. Do you have any money? Take your money out. You are commanding them all the way through, long before you get to the chairs. So they are used to you. They're doing what you tell them to do. Not necessarily the card in wallet. It can be any participation trick with the men, but you can do it. And if it's not going very well, that's when you lose them. Might only want to keep one, and he's got some money. So I'm going to do the egg, lemon, and walnut trick. So I know this sounds weird, but I've got insurance on insurance on insurance in this trick. One, the card in wallet. I can lose both of them. I can lose one of them because I want to keep one to keep the money for the last trick. My act is not accidental. Ultimately, if I get to do this and nothing's happening, I can do slidinis, paper balls over the head, and make the audience laugh anyway, including vanishing the entire damn box, throwing it over his head, and have Debbie catch it out the back. So you've got lots of insurances. With all those insurances in your heart, you can attack this trick with confidence. So, what has happened is the man's lost some money in my case. Now, I'll do a trick that is so amazing. You will say to me, Paul, that was worth £10, £20, £50, $50, whatever. At that point, I do, again, filler tricks. I might do the Chinese linking rings, I might do this Chinese sticks, I might do the block through the head. There's lots of little fillers that you can put in there, right? But ultimately, and because I've been using this all the time, and I've been talking to him with it, and this, that, and the other, they're used to this. This is the means of sound, all right? So I say, all right, I'm going to do a trick on you. And you are the only one this trick will bother. To everybody else, it will not mean a thing. But to you, one ball will disappear, which is a naughty little joke. Okay, and I go into my box and I take out a box of Kleenex tissues. And I travel around him. He's comfortable now because he's had a silly trick done on him. And I frequently, which I didn't in this show because of some language limitations, I frequently will say to him, before I do the baby gag, I will say, ha ha. Now, I want you to have a good laugh at this, because the one I do on you next is worse. Now, I'm going to turn towards you, and you'll see what happens, okay? He has no idea the chairs is going to happen, but now I'll say it as if he's here, okay? You come on me, and I say, no, because the one I do on you is worse. I make a wink. He's in on a joke. He doesn't know what the joke is, but he's in on it. So I travel around and say, now I'm going to use a box of Kleenex. And I open the box up. You can see in it, round it, under it, all over it. Okay. And I'm going to get hold of that, get hold of the ends. Now he's hold of the ends of the box. Sometimes they just go like that. I say, no, no, hold it about there. I said, relax, don't have a relapse playing with English words. I'm going to put this microphone right next to you, so watch your language. I have told the audience the microphone is here, and indeed it is. I say nothing to him, I do not stage cue him at all. I say, hold the end, he's holding the end. I said, now, I'm going to take out 2 paper balls, okay? And I take out 2 paper balls like this, and I say, now, watch the paper balls. I'm going to make one of them disappear. Do you understand that? He nods. The audience think he's nodding at, do you understand? I'm going to make one of these disappear. No, he isn't. He is nodding because inside here it says, please jump off the chair when I say 2. Okay? Saute de la chaise quand je dis 2. That's there. So I'm pointing at that with my fingers when I'm saying, one of these balls is going to disappear. Do you understand that? I need him to understand that. So he says, yes. So he nods, yes. And then, to prevent anybody else seeing it, I say, it will be this ball. And the box is closed, and the springiness of that traps it. If that goes up onto the stage anywhere, nobody can see it, okay? So I just go, okay, 1, 2. Now, this is quite slow. This isn't 1, 2, 3. It's 1, giving him time to realize 2 is coming, and he's supposed to jump. So it's 1, 2, and by then he's on the way. Sometimes they don't till 3, but it's okay. He jumps. Okay, and now I don't know what's going off. I'm puzzled by it. I'm shocked. There's something going wrong. Okay, and we are now off the microphone because he's jumped, and people are puzzled. They start to laugh a little bit. Okay, and this is the moment I say, no, please sit on the chair. Look where I am now. I'm the other side of him, okay? And right into his ear, I say, no, hold the box, do it again. Now watch, do it again. Nothing moves, do it again. But I only speak when there's noise from the audience. It's very important. If you're stage cueing, don't try and stage cue when there's total, utter silence. I've seen men doing it. And I've seen them not even bother to learn to say, do it again. Okay? Get yourself a language setup system in your head where you are not saying P's and B's and all that. And in this routine, you don't need them. You just say, do it again. Watch. That was great. That was great. He's in on it. That was great. That was great. That was great. Do it again. Okay? Now, so I come back around. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Microphone. Right, sorry about that. And when I am talking, I'm talking out loud to cover the fact I'm not on the microphone. When I come back around here, we're back to being intimate. And then I say, now, I'm going to count to 3, okay? 1, 2, boom, off he goes, you see? What's the matter with him? What's the matter? You know, I go right, what's the matter with you? You know, pick the chair up. Now, that's gobbledygook. I don't actually say pick the chair up. I say pick the chair up. And he hears pick the chair up, okay? So he picks the chair up. And now I'm looking at it with him. I say, look underneath it, all right? They're laughing. He's looking underneath it. They're laughing at him looking underneath it. I say, sit over here, sit over here. And I take him out of the zone, you know? I say, sit over there, okay? Do it again. Right, what's the matter with him? All I'm doing is I'm going 1, 2, and off he flies. Now, this is a jazz routine. There is no fixed thing for me. I don't know what they're going to do anyway. So, different reactions, different time. So I say, I come back, what is the matter with you? Look, let's just move the chair. And I put the chair down, and he sits on it, okay? I sit on it, and I just say, I'll come into the light so you can see this. Count to 10 and do it yourself. Count to 10 and do it yourself. Nothing. So, a lot of the time, 18 out of 20 times, he'll do it. Because what I say is, count to 10, do it yourself. It's right in his ear. If you want the real volume of this, it's count to 10 and do it yourself. That's it. No more volume than that, because I'm in his ear. And I'm shielded anyway, because I'm behind him. Count to 10, do it yourself. Start now. Start now. And I'm coming over here. Do you know him? And I'm talking to this fella, and he flies off the chair. Oh! The place is going nuts. I've slung that away by now. I pick this up, and I'm coming to this man, and I go round the back like that, and I put that down, and as I bang that down, I say no. Sit there. And he goes, no. And I say, shake your head. Because frequently they just go, no. Shake your head. He goes, no. Where's your wife? Tell him to shift, okay? And he shifts, okay? They laugh because he shifts, see? Doing as you're told now, sit down there, jump off it when I say 2. And that's the only time I actually cue somebody to jump off it when I say 2, okay? Jump off it when I say 2 to him, okay? So, and now I'm going like this, and sometimes I need a laugh to cover that conversation. I'm going to count to 3, and I haven't cued him yet. I haven't cued him. So I say, I'm going to count to 3, all right? You can sit down, you've got his chair. The audience laughs, okay? And on that laugh, I'll turn around, and that's sometimes when I'll cue the guy over the laugh. There has to be other noise, because sometimes the audience is too close. And the real secret of stage cueing of all kinds is to have a noise, applause, a laugh, to cover the fact that you're talking to these people on stage. Harry Blackstone had a microphone killer under here, and you could see him cueing guys and just doing that. You know, it was very good, great routine. And but he had a mic that one of these he could chop off, So anyway, so turn around, and as he's coming to sit down, I'll say, jump off the chair, and I say to him, okay? And he's sitting there, and sometimes they're a bit surprised, okay? And I say, right, 1, 2, and he jumps, he gets it, they both jump. As they both jump, I'm up, whoa, what's going off here, you know? And what is going on? And I say, whatever it is, you have caught it of him, like it's some transmittable disease, you know? And you take your chair over there. So this guy takes his chair away, he takes it over there, like that, and I say, now you hold the back of the chair with 2 hands. And this is the bit I never saw anybody else do. The problem with a lot of magic routines, like the thumb tie and stuff like that, is they don't have an end. You know, there's no climax. The thumb tie, what do? You get cut out of it, you see? So on my TV show, we built 2 climaxes to thumb ties. And with this, it was very good, but what do? Say, well, thank you very much, goodbye, you know. So I needed an ending, so I reversed the jumping. And so he puts it there like that, and as he's doing that, I'll say, you bring your chair to the middle, can you move your chair forward a bit, okay? Which gets him right next to me. And as he moves his chair forward a bit, I'll say, stick to it. That's it, stick to it. That's it. All right. His guy brings a chair here, like this, and he says, sometimes they do this. I said, no, 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 you sit down. You paid all that money to watch, you know, the vanishing paper ball. He sits down like this, and as he's sitting down, I say, I'm going to make a great big paper ball. If a little paper ball lifted you that far, a big paper ball, pew, stick to it, because it gets a bit of a titter, and as a titter is a little laugh. And as you get the little laugh, just say, stick to it. That's it. So now we come to the end of the routine, the ball vanishes, I throw it most nights extremely accurately into a box at the back. Nobody ever notices. It's one of my rare skills. And and then I say, let's have a big round of applause as he goes back to his seat. But he can't get up. You can try this at home. You say, what a good guy. You push down on his shoulder. Nobody can stand up if you're pushing down on the shoulder. You know, a big round of applause, he goes back. It looks like you're helping him. You know, this is kind of lifting, but this is pushing down. And as he goes back to his seat, and he gets it straight away then, you know. And I say, and while they're laughing, I say, stay stuck, because I'm going to leave him on his own now. I've actually dared to walk off stage and leave them there. You can try that, you know, if you want to. Anyway, and then I go back to this fellow while he's still struggling, and I'll say, stay stuck again to him, because they're laughing at him. Go back to your seat, shake it. Loud, go back to your seat, shake it. And so frequently we do this. Sometimes they swing it round, you have to be careful. And then that's the secret of the electric chairs. You would be absolutely crazy if you do it exactly like I have done it, because it's too well known for me, and my son Martin does it as well as I do. He's very good at it, and he's the only guy I ever really gave permission to do the entire routine. But don't take the routine, think about your magic. Think about, I'd like to do the electric chairs now. Paul cues them like this. I can use the laughter, I can use that, but what can I get them to do other than what he does? Because believe me, there's alternatives to just making them jump off chairs. I've seen a few. You just use your brains. You should, don't try to be a second one of me, you know, be the first one of you. You're the best one of you there is. And so you've got to just take the principles behind each stage of the lessons and think, does that apply to me? How can I make that apply to me? That's a good idea. I want to use it, and that's a good idea. But that's the basic principle of the electric chairs is, 1, I don't cue them verbally. Find a way to cue them a different way. And then 2, once the people are laughing, applauding, whatever, that's the moment you cue them. If you're interested in, and you are a children's entertainer, I once put 2 receivers into turbans and put them onto 2 kids, the turbans onto 2 kids, and Ali Bongo was off stage cueing the kids inside the turbans. That's what I do with the electric chairs. What do you do if somebody really doesn't want to join in? What do you do? Well, you go into the vanishing paper ball. Nobody knows that you were going to make them jump off the chairs. They don't know. So you do the paper balls, slidini, worth studying slidini anyway, master. And so I've had one jumping and one not. So I keep talking to the one who won't, or doesn't want to, or is frightened, stage fright, whatever. And I've said, what do you think's wrong with him? Swap chairs, you know, this, that, and the other. Another thing you can do sometimes is if there's steps going off, well, don't, there, sit over there. You can swap a seat from somebody in the audience. I've even cued somebody in the audience while doing the swap. And now they've got 3 flying off the chairs. I wouldn't recommend, I know you can buy them. I've got a pair, I've played with them. You can buy electric chairs. The problem with the ones that I certainly bought, you can hear the crack. They have a little crack that goes off when the electricity cuts. There's one chap made a pair of chairs, you bought a chair, and it had a solenoid that shoved a pin up the backside of the person sitting on it. And he sold it with a bottle of disinfectant because of spreading diseases, you know. Well, some of the clubs I worked in, if you put a pin up somebody's backside, they'd come off the chair, but they'd knock you out. So there's no need for it. You don't need to carry special chairs. It's a good routine, it's a fun routine, but bear in mind the basic principle is don't cue anybody for anything, any trick on stage, unless you've got them interested in something else, like laughter or applause. Now look, you're magicians, so you'll understand what I'm talking about here. And some of you will not have a lot of money. But I'm enough of the professionals, but you won't have a lot of money. And when I started, I didn't have a lot of money. But there was a great trick you could do. And you borrowed a piece of money, you know, paper money, and it disappeared, and it finished up in a brass tube like that, that had a pin through the top and a little lock on, and you undid the lock, and then you undid this. You can still buy these, and they're called a bill tube, because Americans call money, we call it notes, they call it bills, okay? So this was a bill tube. The money finished up in the bill tube. But I could not afford a bill tube. So there was a candy, a sweet, on the market then, and still is now, and we called it Polo Mints. But the Americans, they call it Lifesavers. Now the way this thing works is this. You borrow a note and you tear the corner off for identification, and there's no one listening. You swap the corner, and then the money would be in the Polo Mints which you had given them as security. What a cheat. Well, that was pretty good, and that worked me well around the clubs. But I'm not sure whether he's Canadian or American. Milburn Christopher, he came over from the States and toured the United Kingdom with his illusion show. And in the illusion show, he did the money into the polos, because he'd arrived at the same conclusion in the States that he could do it into Lifesavers. Well, the problem with that was, in the magical fraternity, Milburn Christopher was very well known, and I wasn't. So wherever I went from then on, magicians would say to me, hey, you stole that from Milburn Christopher. Well, I hate people who steal routines in particular. You know, I mean, tricks are for sale, tricks are for sale. But if a guy has come up with a unique presentation and it's his, you shouldn't steal it. And I didn't, even though I did not want to be accused of stealing. Bad news. So what did I do? I went back to the books. I went back to old books, money tricks, looking for money tricks. There was a man I would like to have seen worked the theatres in the UK, called Jack Ladair. And he wrote several tomes and magazine articles, but one was Tricks of a Trooper. A trooper is a guy who goes out and goes around the theatres. And in there, he had a trick with an egg, a lemon, and a walnut. Now, he still switched the corner, okay? He still switched the corner because he had a note already in here, glued in. And he had a really interesting method of getting the note into the egg he'd broken, you know, in the glass. He had a dessert spoon, and he had this glued on the back of the cup, like that. And then he would go into the box, take out the spoon with the cup facing the audience. This is where he'd broken the egg, and he would scoop in and bring that out like that, and then he would just snap it off, just break it off, and he could give that away, and of course the corner matched. Now we come to another problem. If you want to know how little money I had, I didn't have, in those days we had pound notes, I didn't even have a pound note to put in there beforehand. So I had to come up with a way of borrowing any note. And boy, was I lucky, because in doing that, I could travel the world, and it wouldn't matter what the note was. I could take any note. The guys who do coins in bottles are restricted sometimes because they tend to have to use an American coin or something of that nature. But I can take any note, of course, and get it in there. So what I'm going to do is show you exactly how to set it up. It's much simpler setup than you will be able to get in the ring method, and it would work for the ring method, of course it would. So that's the history of it, that's where it came from. Thank you to my previous employers for not paying me very much, so I had to come up with a better method. Okay, let's talk about the egg, lemon and walnut trick. Now, I talked a bit earlier about the history of it and Jack Ladair and where it came from, but I wanted to do it so that I didn't swap the notes, okay? I wanted his note, or her note, to finish up inside the nut. And the first thing I always do, and I think you should prepare your effects always in the same order, exactly the same way, because if you don't, well, you might forget a little bit. So what you're seeing now is exactly what I do every time. I tear a couple of bits of this kitchen roll off, I walk across the dressing room, I go into the box, I line the bottom of the box with that, because I know there's going to be a mess later on in the show, and then I know the next bit is the longest bit in preparation terms, so I will take a dustbin like this, I will pick a nut. Now, you can buy little gizmos and gadgets that will open a nut, but all I've ever used, I've tried them, so it's wrong to say that's all I've ever used, but I've tried them, and I've always got a spoon. You can always borrow a spoon if you forget to take one. And in a nut, there's a little kind of pointing forward end like that. I'm going to hold that really still so you can see it. And that little pointy end. But if you turn a walnut over, like that, you'll see there's kind of a fiber in here, end like that. And if you put this bit of the spoon in there and push and then twist, you've got a lot of leverage on there. So if you twist, you'll find it open. Well, a lot of the times they open cleanly, okay? Now you split it like this, like this, like this, making sure there's no little sharp corners anywhere. You want the ends of the nut to be fairly smooth. So we pull, 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 and it comes apart. This one's pretty good, like this. use the other end and we just winkle that all out like this. Push it in until you finish up with a pretty clean nut inside. And there you have it, like that. I get rid of it. That will do for most occasions. I would do it with that one. And you too can just break a nut open if you want to, and you have some good nuts. Now, what you need, I feel sorry for you if you're very young, because you'll have to ask your parents to go and get this. Mind you, if you're that young, you shouldn't be looking at this. You can buy this stuff. This is impact adhesive, instant contact adhesive. And it's made by a company called Evo Stick. And in some shops, they won't sell you this if you're underage, because there are some stupid people out there who think their life is better if they sniff glue. Okay? My life is already stupid, so I don't need to. Now, you just undo this, put it to one side, and you take your nut and you do one side of the nut with the glue, like that, just a thin stream. And then you need to do the other side like this. And now you have the nut. And that's the thing that takes the most time, because now you have to wait 10 minutes for that glue to dry. It doesn't dry completely. That's why you need this glue, impact contact adhesive. So while that's setting there, I will take a lemon. You might have noticed on the show that I cut the lemon lengthways. I know that there are ways of cutting it like this. I think Tommy Wonder does it for one trick, where it peels away beautifully. But I'm having a conversation. I'm not interested in beauty, and I know the theatre can't see too clearly this, so I slice it down. And in preparation for that, I use one of these. These are single-edged razor blades. You find them in hardware shops or on the internet. I bought a box on the internet because they were getting very difficult to find. And I look for, it's hard to show you this, but can you see that dimple is pointing that way a little bit? This gives me a longer side down there like that. And I look for that, and I just put one incision like that all the way around to the bottom, like that. Okay, that's it. Now, then, this is not the best spoon for this. The best spoons are the ones with the rounded ends, but this will do. And I insert that into the slit, like that. Once it is in there, I work it up and down like this. I'm working over a bin that I've lined with a plastic carrier bag, so there's no mess. I just work it up and down like that, pressing, and gradually inside, by twisting like this, the flesh inside starts to break away from the inside of the peel on the outside. Let me see if I can get that where you can see most of it, like that. You push and you twist, twist, twist. And by doing that, you are peeling it away from the side. Sometimes lemons have very thin skins. They're the hardest to work with. I try to find them with a little bit of a thicker skin, if I can. If not, you work with what you can get your hands on. And you just pull this away until I feel it's time to give away. And that moment, when I'm like that, I sometimes just push fingers in, okay? And wiggle it out, wiggle it out. It is astonishing how big an egg you can get in here. It really is. See, this is going in now, peeling. This is what you do. You winkle, you winkle, you winkle all the time, pulling out. You want to leave some in because then it looks more natural. And for this demonstration, this is more than enough. I've taken it off out. Now, how can you get an egg in that hole? I'm glad you asked that. What it is, you take an egg, and you need 2 eggs approximately the same color. They don't have to be exact because they never see them together. If you take an egg and you push it at that hole like that, and you just twist it as you push, it will open and pop in, and then put your thumb on it and turn the egg lengthways and squeeze, 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 like that. And now you have got a lemon with an egg in it. And from a stage, you can hold it, it's fine. You need some of this stuff, all right, like this, and you just dry it all off, like that. And once you've got it all dried off, and that's it. You now have an egg inside there, and if you hold it in the show like that, who can see? Nothing. Throw it across, throw it through the air, nothing. It's just a lemon. And you put that, that's the next thing that goes in the far corner of there. So it's going literally into that corner at the bottom like that. I take the matching egg before I forget which one is the same color. I put that right next to the egg like this. In a little while I'll let you look in the top of this when it's complete. And then you take your razor blade, because you'll need that in the routine. You take a pair of nutcrackers, because you'll need them in the routine. They go there, and I said this somewhere else on this DVD, every prop goes in exactly the same place every time. Otherwise, I might have to stop and think about it, and I don't want to do that. I want to entertain the people. I dry the spoon goes in there as well. So now let's have a look at the walnut, which has been sitting here. I've left them for 20 minutes more, doesn't matter. I know what it says on the tin, but you put this together like this, okay? Just put it together like this, making sure that everything matches up, get it lined up, and close the nut completely. Now, that is useless because it's shut. Haha, but thanks to this wonderful glue, if you open it again like that and blow on it, you will see it acts as a hinge. You see that? That acts as a hinge. And so that is the secret of the nut, really. You then take your glue and you put your glue, diddly-doo-dee-doo, like this, around all the other surfaces. All right? So again, a thin stream goes around the surface like that, right on the edge, okay? And again, around the other side, a thin stream. We do that, and that, because when I put it in here, this goes right into the middle. I take the glass and I invert it on top of the nut, and it forms an airtight chamber, and the fumes keep that glue fresh. Okay, so this is the back of the box, that's the front of the box. The lemon is always there, the egg is always there, the nut is always open underneath the glass. And at the back here, we have the nutcrackers, the spoon, and the razor blade. And that is it all ready to go. Then this covers the lot. so that any man on the stage looking in there, they see nothing. And then I go for a cup of tea and think about the show. Okay, let's consider what happened during the show. I went up to somebody, I borrowed some money, the money disappeared, and it didn't reappear until the very last thing of the show. That's deliberate. Audiences like to know when a joke is ended. They like to know when an effect, a trick is over. They like to know that. And the big benefit of what I'm about to do is he's lost his money, and that kind of stays in their head. The woman loses a finger ring, it stays in their head. The credit card gets ground up, it stays in their head all the way through the show. These are things that I do, but at the end of the day, I finish up with the egg, lemon and walnut trick. And they're saying a very good trick. It's a good finale trick. The man gets his money back. The loop is complete. How does it all work? Well, it doesn't matter what you borrow from the man, and then it is up to you, again, how you handle it. We'll take the British, this is a £10 note, okay? Supposing the man has given me a £10 note. Well, it's very important he remembers the last three numbers before I touch it. And that means that when he gets it back, he knows it's the real thing. And he's signed it sometimes. If I do that, which is a lovely sound, if you don't know that, you just pull that back like that with your finger while you're just dragging your loose fingers across the money. It makes the right sound. It makes a good tearing sound. Sorry. I know, that made your face go white, whatever. But then in the jokey laugh, you tear off the corner. And in tearing off the corner, I pretend, oh, it's gone wrong. But I always tear off a bit that's got the number on it. There's always two numbers, and they're usually opposite sides. This number is matched on the other side over here. So I've got that. He gets a piece with his number on, and if he signed this, so much the better. But he gets that. And then this bit disappears. Well, how does it disappear? I fold it up. Now it's up to you. I use a handkerchief, and there's lots of different ways. And in my current show, my next show, when I'm doing another trick with money, completely different to this one, I'm using a completely different method again to this. I fold it up small like this for a reason, obviously. It's got to go into the nut. They don't know that. So when it is in that shape, you can use the old handkerchief vanish, which I did last night, and you take this out, and inside the hem, you need broad-hemmed handkerchiefs, for those who don't know about this. Can't believe anybody doesn't know about it. And you roll up a piece of white paper, put it in there, so when you take this, like this, and give it to the girl, you take the whole corner underneath, the girl gets hold of the white piece of paper. And when your hand comes out from under here, all right, it can be quite clear because you've thumb palmed the original note, okay? I keep that in my hand for quite a long time, and it's there. Eventually, taps with the thing, we pull with the wand, that goes away, the money has disappeared. Give her a big round of applause. Now, if you remember, and you'll see it in the show, I have a table on here with all sorts of bits on. What I do is I throw the wand and that into there, and I pick the tabletop up, and I'm exposing this to you. It's now here. I lift the tabletop up to take the bits away and just drop it. It's covered by the tabletop. Now it's in there. I do the baby gag, I do whatever, linking rings, I do the chair routine, and everybody's happy. So when I come back to this, I am now empty-handed. And I can say, I'm going in here, And this is Mr. Left, and this is Mr. Right. Now what I'm going to do now is a strange mixture. I'm going to ask for the studio to work very hard here on your behalf. I'm going to ask them to bring this camera and look over the top, and I'll be working the show to you, and you'll see not only that, but you'll see that view, the audience view, but you'll see over the top, okay? Now, this is normally known in the trade as the shadow graph, all right? Because but if you see it, it's okay to see it this time, and it's all right. Are you okay, fellas? Yeah, are you okay? Right. So now you can see up here what we're seeing down here, right? Look at the mess. So to the audience, I say, now this is Mr. Left, this is Mr. Right. And in here, I have got some pieces of paper, Mr. Left, Mr. Right, and I crumple them up and I put them in here. Now, what else have I got in here, I say? And the first thing I do is I open up this. I take this. Now, in there, you can see the knot is still open. I take this and I say, a glass, it depends where you come from, okay? You can see that quite clearly. And then I say, and I've also got in here, now while I'm looking for things, aren't I? To them, but not really. I'm looking really for the note, which went in at random, the bill, the money. So I put that down on its side. It goes in there onto its side like that. And I say, now, what else have I got? Oh, yes, I've got one of these, and here's your excuse for being in here for a little longer. I've got one of these, and it's a bit difficult to pick up. It's a little difficult to pick up. Now, what I'm doing, I've cracked that shape there. That was a straight piece, and I fold the note in half like that. And I put that bit, that springy bit there, into the nut. And when I put it into the nut, it springs open and opens itself against the sides of the nut, so it can't jump out, can't go anywhere. And then what I said, it's a bit difficult to pick up. It's a razor blade, and everybody knows a razor blade is hard to pick up, so they accept that tiny moment that's in there. A razor blade, children do not play with razor blades. I warn them all that. What else have I got in here? I've got a spoon. Now I go in for the spoon and I ram that shut. The glue sticks it, and I say, it's a little spoon. I do a stupid joke about the little baby in the spoon and all that. The jokes are up to you. But for now, I'm using the spoon, okay? Sometimes I do a Uri Geller joke, but not a trick. And then I go back in here, I confirm this, confirm it by squeezing it as I take out these. Now, I have no set order for what follows. I sometimes take out the lemon, then the egg, then the nut, but I've got to get to the stage where the nut is the one in my hand. And I say, look, I'm going to use this. This is a walnut, ein Walnuss, Elnwethe, depends what language we're in. And we just take this is a walnut, okay? And you hold it in your left hand, not your right hand. And at that point, I don't look at it. I don't look at it because I'm going to do a toss vanish. They think it's here, I'm down here, and that goes on there. The nut is already down here. It's already down there, okay? And when it's down there like that, I go like that, and it absorbs the nut. Slight pause, rotate the hands, they can see there's nothing else there. And then I take, what else? It's an eggy flavoured nut. I do a toss vanish again, all right, which from there doesn't mean a thing, but from you it's okay. And then you go like this, and I go in and I scoop the nut into the glass and pick up the lemon with my finger across the cut, okay? If I squeeze the cut, it's hardly seeable anyway. But if I just put my finger over the nut and I say, and I'm going to put the lemon on the top of the egg, and I push like this, and it absorbs the nut and the egg. This depends how you say it. Sometimes you get a round of applause. Some people say, how do you get them in there? Lemon entry, my dear Watson. very English joke. And you just, then I throw it into this hand, but you don't need the glass or the glass. You do need the razor blade. The glass is now standing upright. I slice this open lengthways all the way like this, taking slices. And this is when I'm thanking the theatre crew, the theatre management. I'm advising people to pick up the leaflets in the venue and see what's coming on in the coming weeks. And I just slice this all the way around like that. And it's important to thank those people because they're as much a part of the presentation of the show as you are. Without those people, you are nothing. Then, by doing that, they've seen these slices, so they accept the one that was there before, and they can get to see the egg, just glimpse of it in the top. And then you pull this apart like this to reveal the egg. And I like that. It's just me maybe, but I like it better than the spiral, which is possibly more artistic. But I'm not artistic, you know? I don't want to be artistic. I want to be a driving entertainer. And so this then is pulled out like that, and I sniff it. I hear, delicious. As this is going down, this is going down like this, and I'm going to take the glass with my hand cupped round the bottom half of it. Doing it slowly, give you the idea. It comes up like that. They can't see it, but they've seen it's an empty glass. So when I do this, on there like that, I drop it all and let it cascade all over the nut. Okay, then you take this, and this is not accidental. You must push down on the nut to wet it all over. So when it comes up, it's a real sticky mess. And that is when I take these and continue with the jokes, which I'm not going to do them again. You can see them in the show. And I'm just drying this off. A long time ago, somebody thought I switched it in here. So I do tend to say, right, I'm going to give him the nut, and I let that just drop like this. Then they know that's okay. And this is covered in gunge, what we call gunge mess. He can put it in there himself. And you tell him to cup his hand round. The reason for that, I make a joke about it flying off, hitting a woman. But the truth is, he might just do it slowly and he'll see the glue separating and all that. So what you do is you cup it around there, he cups his hand around, he can see nothing, you say, grab it hard, really drive it home, and he really tries to break that nut, you know, and he has it, and you tell him to mash it up. Why? Well, because you're destroying the evidence. This comes back to me. I make him take the piece of paper out of the nut himself. I sometimes make another joke about that. Okay, and as he takes that out of the nut, I put the crackers back in there, and this, I'm walking to the wings and clearing the stage. He's got this bit, remember, and that is going off stage, and Debbie is by the side of the wing. She takes, I don't leave the stage there, and I'm timing the talking while he's unfolding it, which I'm watching, and he's unfolding this thing. And then I say to him, so, is the £10 note that you just found inside that nut, inside that egg, inside that lemon, and he's doing all of this, is it yours? He says, yes, it is. And I say, now that's magic. Good night, God bless, goodbye.
Here we are again, and my question
Happy as can be.
relates to the fact that you challenged or persuaded your brother Trevor to do an act at the Working Men's Club. Was it a magic act? What kind of act was it?
What happened was, I came back from Hong Kong, and a man called Stan Freberg had released a lot of comedy tracks where he would parody things like Old Man River and the Banana Boat Song. They were not available, these tracks, in the UK. So I brought them back from Hong Kong, and by then my brother was brilliant on accordion, you know. I was a goodish magic act. And in the UK, there were steelworks, mines, all different kinds of industry. And each shift built its own club. And they would have artists entertaining in the clubs. And I said to Trevor, we could make a little money here. You do the first spot, playing the accordion. I will do the second spot, doing a magic act, and then we'll do this comedy miming act, you know. I probably still owe Stan Freberg a lot of money, I don't know. And so that's what we did. We would borrow Dad's car, and we would go off around these clubs, and it was a fine experience. And it was getting me ready because after Trevor went off to university, I stopped doing that for a while. And then a woman came at me, and her son had won this competition. So she said if she got the bookings in the clubs, and Billy would do the closing spot because it was her son, he'd be the star, and I would be the roadie and the magic act and everything. And I had the van, and it was not a good van. Okay, this one, you kept it going. I think it was probably an early Ford, and you had to lift, the engine was here. And so we had to drive, well I did, driving with this up. An accelerator was not connected, so I was driving like this, you know, hundreds of miles. Oh dear, shades of JJ. And so I did that for a while, but we did have a disagreement. And she said, that's it, you'll be out of work. But I'd been eavesdropping in a conversation where she was trying to persuade this agent to give us bookings and talking about her wonderful son. And don't get me wrong, I like Billy, he's a good guy, okay. But the agent I heard say, no, I can get 1,000 like that. He's a guitar vocalist, you know. But the guy you've got out there, now he's different. And that was me. And I looked around for the other guy, you know. What guy's different, you know? Oh, it's me, I'm different. So when she dumped me, one phone call, I was back in work. And then I got the chance to do a summer season in a holiday resort in England with a man called Peter Casson, who was a great hypnotist and a club owner, and he'd taken the theatre for the summer. And I thought my marriage was not very happy, was breaking up, and I thought, if I don't do this now, I will never do it. I handed in my notice, you know, I left, and I never went back. I went back to see the kids, love the kids, still do. It was amazing. My life got better and bigger and better. I'm still having a wonderful life until this week. Now, I mean to talk to you about that.
Well, let's go back a little bit and please talk to us about the working men's clubs. They were tough places, right?
Oh, very tough, yeah. I mean, to give you a classic example, without me actually using the words, I once saw a man I really rated as a comedian, but he was from the south. And this was what they call a town called Sunderland, the Sunderland Club. Comedians had it written into their contracts that they would not play Sunderland. In the dressing room in one Sunderland club, there were all the gravestones of the acts that had died there, you know. That means they're acting, you know. And on this particular day, it was a Sunday lunchtime. Now, I had no problems in the working men's clubs because they wanted to be able to do with the cards what I can do with the cards and all that. And I'm a happy fella. And I'm what we call an each-way bet, you know. If you don't like my humor, I'll baffle you. If you don't like my magic, I'll make you laugh. So for me, it was good. And I did my spot. That was fine. And they had these big curtains like this, you know, huge curtains. And Charles said, right, I'm ready. And the concert chairman, that's the man who introduced you, said, right, well, I'll go out, I'll say your name, and you'll be all right. And there's these big curtains, and he said to the band, I'll put my head through the curtain, shout, hiya, fellas, and you play the first piece of music. And he's got this comic song. I'm not kidding. There's hundreds of men out there, no women, just men. And he says, now, I don't know about this next act, like, because he's from the South, and but the agent said he might be funny. This is not the best introduction in the world. Might be funny. So please welcome Charles Gray. And he stuck his head through the curtain, and he went, hiya, fellas, and there's one man, the whole room shouting, like that. One man. I mean, like they were trained for it. And the curtains start to open. They start to play the music. And he screamed, don't open these curtains, don't open these curtains. But by the time the curtains were open, they'd all gone home. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Tough. Another club, I thought, we as a troupe, because there was Billy, me, and a girl singer, I thought we had really had a hard time. And as we're going out through the audience, carrying the gear out, this guy said, well, you're the funniest acts we've ever had in here. Great, great show. And I said, well, why didn't you clap? You know, well, you can't clap with a glass in your hand. You know, logical. In Sheffield, they would do this. Almost like a Hitler salute, you know. And that meant they liked you.
Not that they want to punch you in the face.
No, they liked you, but they wouldn't laugh or clap. No, it was tough training.
You have said that going at one of those clubs was like being thrown into a battlefield. Did that teach you the most of what you know today?
I think so. For example, when I got to the Savoy in London, which was a very elegant nightery, and as I'm setting up, I don't know why people do this, to depress you before you go on stage, you know. But they said, what do you do? I said, oh, I do a magic act, you know. Oh, you will die here, you know. They don't like comedians. And my response was, you can't frighten me. I've played Sunderland, you know? And it's true. I'd learned all the rules.
So apart from those circumstances, what was the worst thing of working the club?
It was the traveling that was the worst bit. But on the other hand, you see, it was a very regular income. You will find this hard to believe, but it was £10 a night. Wow. It was more than enough. Men were on £20 a week then. So for one night, you got half a week's wages, you know. So did I ever tell you about one of the worst nights when a London football club, two of them, had just qualified for the biggest thing in England then was the FA Cup, the Football Association Cup. So I'm booked into this London pub, which has a showroom upstairs. And the showroom has, like you got the black around here, it had a balcony right round with a dip in the middle. And when I pull up in the car park outside, and I'm always early, the noise is enormous. And I'm in the car park. Wow. So I go up into the room, and they are drunk beyond belief. Well drunk. So I walk around the balcony to get behind the little band trio into a tiny dressing room where the agent compere for the night says, where have you been? I said, what do you mean? I'm early. I'm not on till 9:30, and it's like 7:30. 3 other acts have been, looked, and gone. You're on next. And I, oh, right. Well, I'll need 10 minutes, you know, set it all up. So I'd worked a lot of clubs by then. And I'm doing the card shuffles, you know, the Hindu shuffle and all that. and I'm doing it. And of course I'm keeping my eyes open, because this kind of club, you know, and at one stage you just go like that, and the ashtray goes past, you know, and another one, the band catch it. Funny. And so we're doing all that, but nothing I was doing, they weren't even looking. So I dropped all the cards in, Texas along to sort them out afterwards. Somewhere behind me I hear, ta-da! And I took a risk. I took the microphone off and I walked forward. And one of these London football clubs, I didn't know which this lot were, have a song that they all sing at the football match. So I walked up to this first table, they're like this, you know. Right in this fella's ear, because no other way he could hear me, with the microphone. I went, I'm forever blowing bubbles. And he goes, pretty bubbles in the they fly so high, yeah, really, really. Me and him in the sky. I went, come on, just like a dream. And now I get the whole table singing, I'm forever blowing. Because the guys told me if I don't do 25 minutes, I'm not going to get paid. So I'm saying, I get this table singing this. Suddenly the whole pub is singing, I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the... Oh, Lord. I sang the song for 25 minutes because I've got a clock in the top of the box. And at the end of that, I said, good night, goodbye, have a great night. And I go off, and the next girl on is a stripper, okay? So she goes on, she starts taking her clothes off, and they're shouting, get the singer back on. That's me.
The singer.
By now she's topless. They don't want to know. The singer, we want the singer. This is true. She grabbed the microphone and went, I'm forever blowing bubbles. And they all started singing again.
At what time did you give up your council job and became a full-time magician?
Oh, when I was 28. When I was 28, I bought a grocery shop and a mobile shop, and I used to drive it around the estates. And then I would be up very early in the morning, and I would go to the markets and buy the fresh fruit, and sometimes the fish, whatever. And then I would load up the bus, open my fixed shop, leave the staff, drive off into the day, drive round, get back to the fixed shop for 5 o'clock at night, offload, put it all away, wagon it up, and it's about 6, 6:30, I'd be driving to do a club. And I would get home maybe 2 in the morning, and then I would be up 5 at the latest to start to load up again and go. And I did that for ages, yeah. 2 years, did for 2 years. And then when I got the offer of the summer season, I just sold the shops and moved on.
It's around that time that you get an invitation to appear on a TV show called Opportunity Knocks, kind of the X Factor of its day.
Well, yeah, kind of. It was a talent show run by a Canadian guy called Huey Green.
What happened there?
I have never believed television talent shows since, because 3 weeks beforehand, I got a letter to say I was going to be on the show and I would come second. And so I did. But I learned a lot because the show was done from an aircraft carrier with a lot of sailors on this ship. And what happened was they were laughing and I waited for the laugh to go off before I started the next gag, you know? Well, when it went out on air, I learned and I asked that the sound men don't go to live shows. They don't listen to live shows. They watch needles. So I would do a gag, the needle would hit red, he would whap that down, okay? But if it was just a little titter, they would turn it up. So my timing was all wrong, because I would be standing like a Dumbo, because he'd turn the sound off, and then start. And it was, what is this? This is wrong. I did come second, by the way. But I then learned that I would just keep going. I would just, blah, 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 you know, and you do what you want to do with that.
Did that change in a way, the way you were seeing your career back then? The fact that you came second?
Yes, it did, because I realized then that for maybe 2 weeks afterwards, people know who you are. You have to be on television regularly to become a known person, a celebrity, a name, okay? That's why people who go on Big Brother type shows become celebrities for no talent at all, but they're being seen every day or every week. So that was when I realized I would have to be on regularly if I was going to make money at it. And I also realized from watching people like Johnny Hart, who had a great act, but Johnny would go on and do the same act every time he was on. And over a 2-year period, producers were not going to book him anymore. We'd seen it. We'd seen it. We'd seen it too frequently. So I decided that every time I went on television, it would be different.
And in 1975, you did make a huge impact on another television show, the Wheel Tappers and Shanters Club.
Wheel Tappers, yeah. And that was a typical working men's club environment, but it was built in a space about this size, yeah. And Johnny Hamp had this genius idea of getting club acts and putting them into their environment, the ones they were used to. So we were used to having people here, literally, when we're working, you know. Whereas most television shows at that time, and still today, you've got a bank of TV cameras, and then there might be an audience beyond them. So what do? You don't play to the cameras if you're not trained for it. You're talking up there. So the camera's here, your eye line is up there. So when it's going on the screen, you look insecure, you know. If I talk to you now, I'll talk to that camera now. If I talk to that camera, I look to you at home and it's normal. But supposing I was doing my entire act sort of like that, above the eye line of the camera, I don't seem positive, I don't seem secure. And so Johnny realized that and gave the great club acts the chance to just play to people. It was brilliant.
And did you get a lot of job offers after that appearance, or no?
A lot, because I also realized, having done the David Nixon show, that David knew where every camera was. He knew all about television. So I went home and learned about camera lenses and direction and all that. And I spotted that on television they only give you 3 minutes, and you cannot be a good act in 3 minutes. You can do an excerpt, you know, and all that. I had decided if I got that break, and I got that break by employing a guy to get me onto that show, that I would do 3 tricks. And I did 12 minutes. But in the first trick, I what they call forward referenced to the next 2. And in the middle trick, I talked about that one and that one. And then in the last trick, I talked about those 2. So when I came off, the producer said, I don't know whether you're very lucky or very clever, but I can't edit that. I said, what? What does edit mean? Innocent. And he left me on air for 12 minutes. And by the time it had finished, I was a star. I mean, there's no if. I had gone into heaven of wherever we live. And it was just amazing. By the Monday morning, fan comes coming in, you know, naughty letters from women. Yeah.
Which were those 3 tricks?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask for the women's addresses there. Yeah. The 3 tricks. Oh, the 3 tricks would be the cup and the ball and the money into the polo mints trick. I can't remember what the one in the middle was, but there were 3 tricks. And I was invited straight back, and I did 15 minutes. And forward referencing, backward referencing. When I came off, he said, "You're not lucky, are you?" And I went, "Well, you know." Yeah.
Another TV show followed, this time for the BBC, for My Next Trick.
Interesting format, because Johnny Hamp, the guy who had created this club show, created a show called The Comedians. And it was an interesting concept. Rather than leave a comedian telling a joke, most comedians tell jokes in groups. I went to the doctors. I said, I think I'm a pair of curtains. Oh, pull yourself together, which is playing with English language. But there was a woman in the doctor, and you do another joke about doctors. They do them in clumps, that's how they remember. So what Johnny did was he got all the top comedians from the clubs, you know, and he stood them in a locked off camera and said, do your act. So they would stand there and they would do their act. And then in the editing suite, he would take Frank's doctor joke, followed by Dougie's doctor joke, followed by Ken's doctor joke, back to Frank doing a doctor joke. And it was funny. And he made about 5 or 6 comedians into big stars in the UK as opposed to club stars, you know? Television producers sometimes don't understand our game at all. I think magic is the least understood art form on television. Television producers don't realize, however, that magic is a unique art. It has rules that you really should not break. You really should not. But because they don't understand it's any different, they do. You can sing a song, and if you must, because you've got the technology and you think you have to use it, you can cut all over the place. All right. And they do. I'm watching a singer at home, and suddenly, whoo, I'm in the balcony watching the singer at home, you know. I think it's stupid, but they do it. But you can't do that with magic, but they do. So this producer had the idea of doing the comedians with a group of magicians. And he had Terry Seabrook, John Wade, me, a singer called Faith Brown, and bring in another magician time and again. Johnny Hart was one of them, and they would bring him in from time to time. But it doesn't work with magic, cutting from one magician to the other. What he had, for example, was Terry doing his insurance routine with the money in the wallet or whatever. Terry would vanish the money, and you'd cut to John Wade doing the bendy mirror. You'd cut to Faith singing a song. You'd cut to me doing a gag, and you'd go back to Terry taking the money out of his wallet. So what? And I'm very much afraid that that is now what we're seeing when we're watching very edited television shows, where the point of no return is edited and you get a cutaway of a fellow over on the other side of the park looking. Well, I'm sorry, you could vanish an elephant. It doesn't mean a thing.
Well, we have talked about this period that was very successful for you. And later, you get your own series on BBC, and that made you known worldwide.
Sex symbol is the word you're looking for.
Kind of.
What do you mean?
Especially in the Middle East. I heard you are very famous in the Middle East, right?
Yeah, because they stole all the shows.
And they would sell you the tapes with a discount.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I went into a shop in the Middle East, and I said, who's the most famous magician? And they said, you are. You know, and I said, really? And it's because they had all the shows copied from BBC.
And we'll be talking about those shows on our next conversation.
There's more?
Oh, yes.
Oh. By now, you must have had enough. you.